Chapter 5697. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had been staying in the wooden house. Because Yu Hong had not yet taught them how to cultivate, they spent most of their time here. They would only follow him out to cultivate if he came. He didn't expect them to leave first today. Of course, Mu-er, you're the laziest one. Granny Hua smiled. Yu Hong nodded. I remember Mu-er was always lazy when he was cultivating. It was Zhong Li Kong who chased after him with a wooden stick every day that forced him to cultivate. Isn't that so? If Mu-er had been so diligent, his cultivation would be much higher now. Huo Kong laughed. Zhong Li Mu's face turned red when he heard everyone's words. He hurriedly said, I know. I'll go cultivate now. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhong Li Mu ran away like a wisp of smoke. If he continued to stay here, he was afraid that even his grandfather would scold him. Everyone laughed even more when they saw Zhong Li Mu run faster than a rabbit. Mu-er is simple and honest. He just said a few words and ran away. Zhong Li Xiao shook his head. Looks like Mu-er doesn't need to be supervised with these little fellows here. Mu-er is usually with us old fellows and rarely sees people of the same generation. That's why he doesn't feel nervous. Now that he knows how people of the same generation cultivate, he knows what's going on. This is a good thing. Huo Kong smiled. I think you're here to freeload. These little fellows have already prepared breakfast before they left. When Zhong Li Mu arrived at the waterfall, he discovered that everyone was there. From the looks of it, everyone had been cultivating here for quite some time. I didn't expect you to come so early. When I went to Granny Hua's place to look for you, you weren't there. Hearing Zhong Li Mu's familiar voice, everyone turned around and smiled. You're here. We thought that you usually wake up a little late, so we didn't disturb you. Zhong Li Mu curled his lips. I woke up late today and got scolded by my grandfather. Looks like I'll have to wake up early tomorrow. You'll have to call me. Everyone was slightly taken aback. They did not expect such a situation to occur. They all nodded and said, we will definitely call you in the future. Seeing this, Zhong Li Mu smiled and said, then all of you should stay here and cultivate properly. If you want to stand firmly on the surface of the river, you have to control your elemental energy to the smallest detail. This doesn't have much to do with strength. All you need to do is train more. I'm going to cultivate above the waterfall. Understood. Everyone nodded. In fact, they had also realized this during the day of cultivation. The reason why they fell into the river was because they did not have enough control over their essence energy, so they could not stand steadily on the surface of the river. Once the waves hit, the water surface would become different. He had to control it immediately, or he wouldn't be able to stand firm. Normally, everyone would pay attention to improving their control over their origin energy when they were cultivating. However, the requirements at that time were not high, so it did not appear to be difficult. But now that the requirements were higher, his control paled in comparison. Zhong Li Mu, why are you training at the waterfall? Shengguan Yingying asked. Grandpa said that my movement technique is not good enough. If I follow the waterfall upstream and succeed, my movement technique will improve greatly. Chapter 5698. Even though they were a certain distance away from the waterfall, they could still feel the force of the water rushing down. Looking at the height of the waterfall, wasn't it too difficult to walk up directly? For a moment, the corners of everyone's lips twitched slightly. This kind of cultivation method was really an eye-opener for them. I finally understand why Zhong Li Mu's strength is so terrifying despite being younger than us. Ziren sighed. His cultivation method is really too terrifying. Di Beichen nodded slightly. Although this cultivation method is very simple, it's much more difficult than our usual cultivation. Whether it was for them to practice their swordsmanship here or for Zhong Li Mu to practice his movement technique, it was very simple to do, but it was very difficult to do. However, it could be seen from Zhong Li Mu that once it was done, it would definitely not only improve in one aspect. Until now, I can only walk halfway up the waterfall before I'll be washed down by the water. However, I believe that as long as I practice for a while more, I'll succeed. I'll go first. Zhong Li Mu waved his hand. His youthful face was filled with endless youth under the sunlight, and his bright and sunny appearance gave everyone more motivation. Come, let's continue to practice and strive to succeed as soon as possible. On this day when Ziren used his fishing techniques to catch a lot of fish, naturally he couldn't avoid making fish for dinner. However, he changed the cooking method today and it tasted very good. In the following days, everyone was busy with their cultivation. When they returned, Granny Hua would prepare a medicinal bath for them. Regarding this, everyone expressed their gratitude and Granny Hua's face was full of kindness. Cultivating in this medicinal bath allowed everyone's cultivation to increase extremely quickly. Furthermore, the origin energy here was much denser and purer than the upper realm. Gradually, everyone was able to stand on the surface of the river without worrying about falling down. This discovery made everyone happy. Although their sword aura didn't improve much, being able to stand here was already a huge improvement. Usually, because they would always fall into the river and walk back from downstream, most of their time was spent on this. Now, everyone could wholeheartedly practice their swordsmanship. Swinging the sword continuously. It was just a simple movement, but everyone made some discoveries in the process of swinging the sword continuously. As their control of origin energy increased, they also discovered a sharp difference when swinging the sword. For example, how to use origin energy to produce a greater effect with the same amount of origin energy. Perhaps they didn't pay too much attention to this point on normal days. When releasing a martial skill, they paid more attention to the might of the martial skill. But now, they realized that controlling origin power was also a profound knowledge. The more origin energy they conserved, the longer their battle power, and if they could accurately control every bit of origin energy without wasting it, it meant that their battle power. Zhongli Mu is right. In the process of cultivation, other than the improvement of sword qi, there are many other aspects that are quietly improving. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes fell on the figure on top of the waterfall. This time they had seen how serious and terrifying Zhongli Mu's cultivation was. Previously they were often swept away by the river, but Zhongli Mu was completely submerged by the river. Chapter 5699. Under the majestic waterfall, Zhongli Mu's figure seemed extremely small. The huge waves crashed onto his body and directly pushed him to the bottom of the river. However, Zhongli Mu was also very resilient and quickly made a comeback. Therefore, when everyone practiced swinging their swords, they could only watch as Zhongli Mu continuously tried and failed. Defeated and still fighting. When Xiren was curious about how difficult Zhongli Mu's move was, so he personally gave it a try. The result was undoubtedly heartbreaking. Before he could even take a few steps forward, he was already submerged by the waterfall. He had to drink a few mouthfuls of water before he could emerge. Di Baichen, Mo Yunjue and Bai Lianche also gave it a try. Their cultivation levels were slightly higher than Xiren's, but they only managed to take a few more steps forward. In front of the waterfall they were extremely small. The difficulty level increased with every step forward. Based on their current situation, it was undoubtedly very far for them to reach Zhongli Mu's current level. This gap is really too big. Xiren sighed. We still have a lot of training to do. After Mo Yunjue experienced this gap, the way he looked at Zhongli Mu also changed. If Zhongli Mu goes to the upper realm, I'm afraid no one will be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with him. Di Baichen nodded and looked at the young man in the beast robe. Such a genius was really outstanding. I used to think that there were too many outstanding geniuses in the upper realm. But in front of Zhongli Mu, those geniuses are all overshadowed. There are also many geniuses in the upper realm. Everyone is working hard to cultivate. While we've been here, I think Jun Lingshuan and Xiao Sou are also working hard to cultivate. Mo Yunjue's eyes darkened. Although he felt that Mu Jin's character was not very good, he could see that this guy was also tenacious when he was in the Immortal Cloud secret realm. This time, after being defeated by Hong Zhuang, the possibility of him giving up was not very high. Instead, it was more likely that he would work hard. Aren't we also working hard to cultivate? Di Baichen smiled faintly, but a cold light flashed in his eyes. The next time we meet we'll see. In the blink of an eye, 2 months passed. Other than when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying, everyone else's strength stopped at Nebula Stage 9. According to Granny Hua, there was no need to rush to break through at this time. The most important thing was to accumulate. Among them, the first to sense the possibility of a breakthrough was Bai Lianche. Originally, his strength was slightly weaker than Ling Er, but now they were on par. Because of the existence of the seal, Ling Er found it even more difficult to break through. After Bai Lianche sensed the opportunity to break through, he had been suppressing it. He had no intention of breaking through. It will be interesting if we break through at the same time, Bai Lianche said with a smile. Let's take advantage of this opportunity. Wait for me and Yingying. Xiren's face was filled with joy. Normally your breakthroughs are too fast. Yingying and I can't catch up to you. Now this is a good opportunity. I don't think so. Di Baichen raised his eyebrows. Baichen, you'll get beaten up like this. Xiren threatened. With your strength? Forget I said that. Chapter 5700. Normally, Everyone would spend most of their time cultivating on the surface of the river, and when it was time to eat, the men would go around hunting demonic beasts. After a while, they naturally became familiar with each other. On this day, when Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were cultivating, Xiao Xuanzi suddenly looked ahead with excitement. Wow, it's so beautiful. The sudden voice attracted everyone's attention. Everyone turned their heads and looked in the direction Xiao Xuanzi was looking at. They didn't know what this guy was talking about. However, when they saw the figure in front of them, they were all stunned. An imperial wind horse elephant appeared in everyone's line of sight. Its rumbling sound revealed its weight. Its body was huge, but its lines were very beautiful. The imperial wind horse elephant is the descendant of a hippopotamus and an elephant. It's very good at speed and is a very powerful existence among the demonic beasts. Zhong Limu noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' curious looks and immediately explained with a smile. This guy is very good at speed? Mo Yunjue was a little surprised. This guy in front of him was so huge, it didn't look like it was strong and healthy. Zhong Limu nodded slightly. You can't judge a book by its cover. It's the same for beasts. Little Blossom, you're here. Zhong Limu waved his hand at the imperial wind horse elephant. He was very familiar with it. The imperial wind horse elephant slowly walked to Zhong Limu's side and rubbed against him. It was very friendly. However, when it looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, it was undoubtedly a little more distant. Little Blossom? Shengguan Yingying's lips twitched. This imperial wind horse elephant looked so domineering. Why did it have such an unsuitable name? Without waiting for Zhong Limu's explanation, Xiao Xuanzi said with a silly smile, "It's originally as beautiful as a flower." Everyone couldn't help but shiver. Looking at Xiao Xuanzi's love-struck expression, they suddenly felt that their aesthetic standards were a little different from Xiao Xuanzi's. Previously, I thought that Xiao Xuanzi's aesthetic standards were quite normal. Could it be that after he gained weight, his aesthetic standards also changed? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen thoughtfully. Di Beichen's eyes were also filled with doubt. He shook his head and said, I don't know about that. Maybe the demonic beast's sense of beauty is different from ours? In my opinion, little Xuanzi must have been too empty and lonely recently, so he's thinking of love. Xiren's eyes lit up, and he looked like he had found the truth. Hearing Xiren's words, everyone looked at each other. Perhaps there was such a possibility. Zhong Limu, on the other hand, did not notice anything amiss as he explained to everyone, You all know that Granny Hua's name is Hua Hua, right? Back then, when Little Blossom was injured, it was Granny Hua who treated him. From then on, Little Flower and us got to know each other. Sometimes, when we found some treasures, we would give them to Granny Flower. However, Granny Hua did not accept it as a contract beast, but their relationship was still very good. Granny Hua's name is Hua Hua, so she named him Little Flower. Everyone finally understood. Actually, when they knew Granny Hua's name, they were also a little shocked. After all, this name was really too simple. Now, it seemed that Granny Hua had inherited her parents' tradition. Naming was as simple as always. Master, why do I feel that Granny Hua's naming skills are comparable to yours? Chapter 5701. Ugh, Bailey Hongzhuang facepalmed. When she first heard the name Little Blossom, she felt helpless. However, after hearing Xiao Hei's words, it seemed that her naming skills were on the same level as Grandma Flower's. At least mine is more suitable for your situation. Bailey Hongzhuang defended herself. Just take it as it is. Xiao Hei spread her hands. She looked like she could say whatever she wanted. Little Blossom, they are my new friends. You haven't been here for a while, so you don't know them. They are now staying at Grandma Flower's house. You will see them often in the future. Let me introduce them to you. Zhong Limu introduced Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to Little Blossom. Only then did the vigilance in Little Blossom's eyes disappear. There was a hint of familiarity. However, facing Xiao Xuanzi's gaze, its gaze changed. Why is this guy looking at me so strangely? So pretty. Xiao Xuanzi looked at Little Blossom with infatuation. When Zhong Limu introduced himself, he took a step forward. Beautiful beast, I am Xiao Xuanzi. Little Blossom looked at Xiao Xuanzi strangely, but didn't say anything. Seeing this, Xiao Xuanzi went to Little Blossom's side. Little Blossom, your name is so nice. I just came to the abandoned immortal forest not long ago. They are all cultivating. It's so boring. Why don't you bring me around? Hose before brothers, Di Beichen sighed. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Looking at Xiao Xuanzi's flattering face, she said, Di Beichen, Xiao Xuanzi is quite good at chasing after beasts. Did he learn it from you? That's not it. Di Beichen shook his head. If you want to talk about spoiling your wife, he should have learned it from me. When I chased after you, Xiao Xuanzi wasn't even born yet. Tisk tisk k. Shengguan Yingying shrugged. That's too mushy. I can't take it anymore. Let's go cultivate first. I'm afraid little Xuanzi is gifted in this aspect. When Xiren thought of little Xuanzi's previous performance and made a judgment. Zhong Limu also noticed that little Xuanzi was particularly interested in Little Flower. However, he felt that little Xuanzi wouldn't have much of a chance because Little Flower's standards were very high. As expected, Little Blossom, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke. I'm not free. It was just two simple words, but Xiao Xuanzi's flattering smile immediately froze. Zhong Limu, I'll be leaving first. After Little Flower said that, he turned and walked in another direction. When his huge body walked, there was a rumbling sound again. Xiao Xuanzi, I think you should just forget about it. Di Beichen muttered and was about to pull Xiao Xuanzi to cultivate together. However, when they turned around, everyone realized that little Xuanzi had already disappeared. They could vaguely hear Xiao Xuanzi's voice. It's okay if you're not free. I'll go with you wherever you want to go. I'm free anyway. Everyone stood stiffly on the spot. They only saw an imperial wind horse elephant quickly moving forward with a mystical fire demonic rock following closely beside it. The imperial wind horse elephant seemed to dislike the mystical fire demonic rock and increased its speed. However, the mystical fire demonic rock didn't seem to feel the other party's rejection and continued to follow closely. The imperial wind horse elephant is very good at speed, but the mystical fire demonic rock is also very good at speed. I wonder which one of them is faster? Mo Yunjue coldly said. Chapter 5702. Not long later, Xiao Xuanzi came back, but his face was bruised and swollen. Seeing this scene, everyone was not surprised. After all, this guy was so friendly and was so talkative, the imperial wind horse elephant must not be able to take it, so it directly beat him up. Xiao Xuanzi, that imperial wind horse elephant is bigger than you. I think you won't be able to control it. When Xiren looked at Xiao Xuanzi, who still had a nosebleed on his face, and comforted him. Di Beichen, who was practicing his sword, turned his head and helplessly shook his head. I think that imperial wind horse elephant is stronger than you better raise your cultivation first. Xiao Xuanzi's eyes lit up. Master, why did you say the same thing as Little Blossom? It said that I'm not strong enough, it doesn't like me like this. Then you should give up. Xiao Bai rolled his eyes. Among them, Xiao Xuanzi was the one who didn't do his job the most. How can I do that? Xiao Xuanzi's face was serious. Didn't I say? Beating is affection and scolding is love. It beat and scolded me. I think you all know what it means. It said that I'm not strong enough. It must be because it hates iron for not becoming steel. Female beasts always care about their face. Wait until I'm stronger than her, she will accept me. Everyone who was originally sympathetic to Xiao Xuanzi did not want to say anything after hearing Xiao Xuanzi's words. This guy's face was thicker than a city wall. Although his face was injured, his heart was not hurt at all. Am I wrong? Xiao Xuanzi's face was filled with pride. Annoying. Too annoying. Everyone turned their heads, they might as well cultivate. Although everyone was not optimistic about Xiao Xuanzi and Little Blossom, what was worth being happy about was that Xiao Xuanzi was cultivating harder. The mystic fire demon rock was a high-level existence among the beasts. There was a bloodline left behind from ancient times in its body. Its cultivation talent was not weak at all. Once it cultivated with all its might, the results were not bad. Noticing this, everyone revealed a satisfied expression. Although Xiao Xuanzi's love came out of nowhere, it still had the effect of promoting. We've been here for a while, it's time to go back and take a look, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Back in the desert world and the ocean world, 3 days inside the desert world was equivalent to 1 day outside. Ever since they came to the abandoned immortal forest, time had returned to normal. Because this was the immortal region, a previously uninhabited world. Indeed. We also need to go back and buy some things. Di Beichen nodded. The most important thing was to see his parents-in-law. They were all used to staying in the abandoned immortal forest, but they couldn't forget about their family. He didn't know if the Xiao family and the Jun family would make any moves in these 2 months. Are you guys going back? Zhong Limu couldn't help but ask when he heard the discussion between Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Di Beichen nodded. Let's go back and take a look today. If everything is fine, we'll come back. All right. Zhong Limu replied with a smile. After making the decision, everyone returned to Granny Hua's residence. It was currently noon. Before they left, they had to complete their mission. When everyone returned, they found Granny Hua brewing medicine in the courtyard. After thinking for a while, everyone guessed that this was probably a medicinal bath prepared for them at night. Why are you back so early today? Chapter 5703. Granny Hua, we were planning to go back today, so we came back first. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was bright and beautiful. After getting along for 2 months, she really liked this kind and lovely old man. Hearing this, Granny Hua was not surprised. She nodded calmly and smiled. Looks like these old fellows are going to complain while you're gone. Everyone smiled. Now that the seniors' food was spoiled by them, if they were to eat the usual food, they would probably think that it tasted bad. Granny, if there's nothing else, we'll be back soon. Granny Hua stopped what she was doing. I was preparing the medicinal bath for you tonight, but since you're going back today, I'll pass this medicine to you. Everyone was surprised. They had asked about it before, but Granny Hua had never told them. You've consumed a lot of energy during your daily cultivation, so the medicinal bath will be very helpful for your bodies. If you're fine after you go back, continue to soak and don't fall behind. Everyone could not help but feel touched. Thank you, Granny Hua. Granny Hua smiled and waved her hand. You little fellows are really polite. You've been thanking me all day, and you'll learn from Mu-er in the future. Mu-er won't thank you. Zhong Li Mu did not think that he would be pulled out of nowhere, and immediately felt embarrassed. Grandfather said that we're already very familiar with each other, so there's no need for such formalities. That's right. Granny Hua nodded. There's no need for formalities between familiar people. Everyone smiled, knowing that Granny Hua treated them as one of her own. I didn't know that you were going to leave, so I didn't prepare more medicine. Granny Hua turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. I see that you've been wanting to learn for a long time, so I'll pass this prescription to you today. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be stunned. Then her face was filled with joy. Previously, when she had felt the effects of this medicinal bath, she had hoped to be able to master it. This was because the benefits it provided to cultivators were too great. Expelling the impurities in the body was extremely important to any cultivator, but it was very difficult to do so. She always thought that if she could learn it, she would be able to let her family take a medicinal bath as well. Unfortunately, she didn't know enough about many of the medicinal herbs in the immortal domain, so even if she studied the medicinal herbs in this medicinal bath every day, there were still some aspects that she couldn't determine. She had also tested Granny Hua before, but Granny Hua had never told her. She did not expect Granny Hua to be willing to teach her today. Most importantly, it turned out that Granny Hua had already seen through her thoughts. Before she could say a word of thanks, Bailey Hongzhuang swallowed it back. She then smiled brightly and said, Granny Hua, you're so nice. Granny Hua smiled and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a satisfied expression. That's more like it. I see that you seem to be very interested in medicine. If you want to learn, I can teach you when I have time in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up and her pretty face became even more dazzling due to her excitement. The corners of her lips kept rising and it seemed like she was about to lose control. If Granny is willing to teach, I'll definitely learn it well. Granny Hua chuckled and handed the medicine she had prepared to Bailey Hongzhuang. Then she wrote another prescription. Chapter 5704. There are still some medicinal ingredients here, you can bring them back. Granny Hua pointed at the medicinal ingredients not far away. These were originally prepared for you guys. Looking in the direction that Granny Hua was pointing at, everyone realized that the medicinal ingredients that Granny Hua had been drying these past few days were all prepared for them. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was proficient in medicinal ingredients, understood that although Granny Hua had been drying medicinal ingredients previously, there weren't so many of them. Later on, these were all prepared for them. Thinking about it, after they went to cultivate, Granny Hua hadn't been idle and had gone to pick medicinal ingredients. Although the abandoned immortal forest was rich in medicinal ingredients, they consumed quite a lot of them every day, so Granny Hua had probably spent a lot of time. For a moment, everyone was moved. Compared to what Granny Hua had done for them, their daily lives were nothing. Before leaving, Granny Hua took out a few medical books and handed them to Bailey Hongzhuang. If you have time, take a look at these medical books. There are many types of medicinal ingredients in them. Only by understanding the types of medicinal ingredients will you be able to learn faster from me in the future. Looking at the heavy medical books in her hands, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded seriously. Granny, I will definitely remember the contents of these books. Since you're so serious, I believe you. Granny Hua's eyes were filled with admiration. It's been a long time since I've seen such lovable children. Go back and come back when you're free. This sword move isn't finished yet. Everyone nodded. After practicing for 2 months, although everyone had made quite a bit of progress compared to when they had just arrived, they were still far from reaching Zhong Limu's level. Hongzhuang, your dream has come true. Granny Hua is willing to teach you. Shengguan Ying had a smile on her face. She knew that Hongzhuang had this thought, but she didn't say it out loud. That's right, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Granny Hua isn't only skilled in medicine, she's also skilled in alchemy. Previously, President Liu told me that a grade 10 alchemist is much stronger than a grade 9 alchemist. Previously, I didn't know the difference between a grade 10 alchemist and a grade 10 alchemist, but I'm certain that Granny Hua is an existence that surpasses a grade 10 alchemist. Her ink-black phoenix eyes were filled with certainty. Even though she had never truly seen Granny Hua concoct dawn, she could feel the strength of Granny Hua's foundation just by looking at her occasionally. An alchemist who surpasses the 10th grade? Xiren couldn't help but be surprised. He's actually that powerful? Not only Granny Hua, but the other seniors are also very powerful existences. Di Beichen's face turned serious. Even such a peerless expert lives in the abandoned immortal forest. I wonder how terrifying the immortal domain is. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but fall silent. The current situation in the sky had already made them deeply aware of how terrifying the immortal domain was. The difference in strength between the upper realm and the immortal domain was truly shocking. Back then, even Bai Yunjiao and He Shinjun couldn't escape this calamity. Let's not think about this for now. In any case, we still have time. Bailey Hongzhuang's laughter broke the heavy atmosphere. Don't all experts cultivate? Who knows, when the time comes, we might also become experts in the immortal domain. That's right, I have confidence in us. Shengguan Ying raised her arms high with a face full of confidence. After coming out of the primordial chaos ring, everyone opened the room. Chapter 5705. If you come out, we have something to talk about. When they saw the note on the door, everyone looked at each other and immediately walked out. Di Beichen, Hongzhuang, you guys go and see what's going on. We'll wait here for your news. Mo Yunjue said in a deep voice. Okay, then we'll go first. Di Beichen nodded. He didn't say anything else and quickly rushed out with Bailey Hongzhuang. They didn't know when this note was written, and they didn't know if it was too late. Logically speaking, everything has been very calm for a while. There shouldn't be any problems. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned and kept thinking, could it be that the Xiao family and the Jun family did something again? I don't know. Di Beichen shook his head. The Xiao family and the Jun family don't dare to confront us directly. If they called us here, then it should be about Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Souo. The two immediately rushed to the patriarch's residence and met Di Xiaofeng on the way. Seeing the two appear, Di Xiaofeng let out a sigh of relief. You two finally appeared. Big brother, what happened? Actually, it's not a big deal. It's just that the Xiao family and the Jun family have some movements recently. Father wants to inform you in advance. Also, there's an opportunity to gain experience. Father wants us to go together. After hearing this news, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen let out a sigh of relief. As long as it wasn't a very serious matter, then they could think of a way to deal with it. Father happens to be in the study. You guys can go directly. Okay. When Di Yujue saw Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue, a comfortable smile appeared on his face. You're out? Di Beichen smiled and nodded. You can say so. Di Yujue carefully sized up the two of them, and a wisp of surprise quietly flashed across his brows. He has already broken through to Nebula Stage 9? It seems that the results of this period of seclusion are not bad. Father, we've always been working hard on our cultivation. We don't dare to slack off at all. Di Beichen was all smiles. Although they had been practicing their swordsmanship for a while, their cultivation was also steadily improving. This speed was even faster than when he cultivated all day. It was precisely because he had exhausted all his origin power that his cultivation speed was even faster. Zhong Limu had been using this method to cultivate since he was young. It was hard for him not to improve his strength. I can see that. Di Yujue nodded. His handsome face had one word written on it, satisfaction. Father, I heard from Big Brother that the Jun family and the Xiao family seem to have made some moves? Di Beichen returned to the main topic. He was still very concerned about this point. Di Yujue's expression also became more serious as he said, Indeed, this is the news I heard a few days ago. I heard that Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Souo found a new master and are now learning from that master. Can be said that they are improving at lightning speed. New master. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Which powerful senior is it? This person is called Shuyu. He is a famous expert in the upper realm. Usually there are many cultivators who want to learn from him, but he has never taken in any disciples. I don't know why he took in Xiao Sou and Jun Lingshuan as his disciples this time. Du Jue's face darkened. When he heard this news, his heart sank. This wasn't good news at all. Chapter 5706. If it was someone else, I wouldn't have to worry. However, Shuyu is different. Shuyu is a publicly recognized expert. I heard that there is a higher realm beyond the upper realm. However, that person was very vague about it. Even if I wanted to know more about it, I didn't have the chance to. The Shuyu had once been to that higher world. Du Jue's face darkened. He looked at the sky outside the house. I went to see that person before. His cultivation and knowledge are far beyond ordinary cultivators. However, he rejected Xiao Feng as his disciple. All these years he hasn't accepted any disciples. I thought that he had given up on the idea. I didn't expect them to take the initiative. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. They were surprised. They wanted to ask Du Jue about this. However, they didn't expect Du Jue to bring it up first. If they guessed correctly, the higher realm should be the Crossing Immortal Domain. However, they didn't know how Shuyu came back after going to the Crossing Immortal Domain. Father, is the place you're talking about the Crossing Immortal Domain? Di Beichen asked. You know about the Crossing Immortal Domain? Du Jue was surprised. He asked in confusion, how do you know about the Crossing Immortal Domain? Even he had only heard about this place once. He didn't know about the situation there. He didn't expect Di Beichen to know about this place. It was too shocking. I heard about it from the owner of the historical remains. Di Beichen made up a story. He wanted to tell Du Jue about the Chaos Ring. However, after they brought Mo Yunjue to the abandoned immortal forest, Senior Zhongli told them not to tell anyone about this secret. Although they didn't know why Senior Zhongli told them that, it wasn't good for them to keep bringing people in. After all, the seniors had only accepted the appearance of the few of them. Otherwise, if they had brought in all the familiar faces, the seniors would probably have ignored them. Granny Hua already spent a lot of time preparing the medicinal baths for them every day. It was impossible for them to teach everyone. As such, they could only do so. I see. Listening to Di Beichen's words, Du Jue did not doubt him. Di Beichen's darkness attribute talent was so outstanding, he knew that the owner of the ruins was definitely not a simple person. It was not strange that he knew about the existence of the Crossing Immortal Domain. Then what did that senior say? Di Beichen pondered and shook his head. Senior didn't mention too much about it. I only heard that the Crossing Immortal Domain is the place where cultivators from the upper realm ascend. However, the Crossing Immortal Domain is only a place for transitional immortals. If you want to truly become an immortal, you have to enter the Immortal Domain. There is an Immortal Domain above the Crossing Immortal Domain? Du Jue was stunned. Obviously, he didn't expect there to be two places that were even higher. Apart from the shock on his face, there was also a trace of complexity. Seems like I'm truly ignorant and inexperienced. I've actually never heard of this immortal realms before. Father, the Xingshan continent is so big. It's normal that there are many places that we don't know about. Chapter 5707. This Shuyu should have gone to the Crossing Immortal Domain. As for how he came back, I don't know. Du Jue sighed. That place is an existence of a higher level. For him to be able to go there, it shows that his cultivation has surpassed most of the people in the upper realm. At least, my strength is not as good as his. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen seemed to have suddenly understood why Du Jue was so worried. Since Du Jue was not Shuyu's opponent, there was probably no one in the family who could be his opponent. If Shuyu stood on the side of the Di family and Xiao family, or even helped them to deal with the Di family, things would become much more troublesome. Such a big family seemed to have a deep foundation, but for a true expert, it was not difficult to deal with them. To catch bandits, one must first catch the leader. As long as the backbone was taken care of, the rest would just be a plate of loose sand. The two of them also felt the threat. If that was really the case, they would have to think of a way. Father, when the boat reaches the bridgehead, everything will be fine. Although I don't know why Shuyu is willing to help them, things may not necessarily turn for the better. Di Beichen consoled, but deep in his eyes, there was a serious and worried look. To him, the Di family was worth protecting with his life. According to what I know, the Crossing Immortal Domain is also a place that the Immortal Domain looks down on. Only those who perform well in the Crossing Immortal Domain can go to the Immortal Domain. If this Shuyu really had the strength, he would not still be in the upper realm. Father, don't worry too much. I believe that the upper realm does not have only one true expert. There will always be a way. Bailey Hongzhuang also consoled. The tall and sturdy man in front of them carried the entire family on his shoulders so that they could have a stable environment. Thinking about it, ever since Shuyu took Jun Lingshuan and Diyu Jue as his disciples, Diyu Jue had not been able to eat or sleep in peace. Oh, there is actually such a thing? Diyu Jue was a little surprised. He felt as if he had seen a wider world, one that was completely beyond his imagination. Di Beichen nodded. Father, there's no point in thinking about this now. The most important thing is that we have to raise our cultivation as soon as possible. Who knows, maybe we can go to the immortal domain together in the future. You little brat, you really dare to dream. Diyu Jue chuckled, but the haze between his eyebrows was blown away by Di Beichen's words. However, what you said makes sense. Who said that we can't go? The atmosphere in the room became relaxed. Diyu Jue spoke again. This time, other than telling you this, I have another thing to tell you. An ancient battlefield had suddenly appeared in the desert near Shihan City in the northwest. Currently, it was covered by a dense fog. Although some people had already entered, they still couldn't see the situation clearly. The only thing that can be confirmed is that there are many treasures left behind from ancient times. Therefore, all the major forces have decided to send the younger generation to explore. Diyu Jue's gaze swept across Di Beichen and Diyu Jue's faces. He said in a deep voice, there are definitely many treasures in the ancient battlefield. However, the danger is also very high. This time, both you and Xiaofeng will be going. In addition, some outstanding cultivators from the family will also be going. Last time in the Immortal Cloud Mystery Realm, your performance was very good and made our family the biggest beneficiary. Chapter 5708. Father, why would an ancient battlefield suddenly appear in the northwest? Di Beichen was a little surprised. This was also an accidental discovery. Diyu Jue shook his head and lamented. Previously, a dense fog suddenly appeared in the northwest and a large area of fog enveloped the entire desert. Western Han City felt that this was a little coincidental and sent some soldiers to investigate, but these soldiers never returned. After that, they realized that there was something fishy about this matter, and Western Han City issued this mission to the Mercenary Association. Because the reward was very generous, many mercenaries went there. It seems that a mercenary accidentally touched the opening of this ancient battlefield, and then the ancient battlefield appeared. A mercenary discovered it? Di Beichen was slightly surprised. That means that many mercenaries have already entered? No, after the ancient battlefield appeared, some experts went to check it out and found that the restriction on it had not completely dissipated. I'm afraid that we can't go in for the time being, but there is an extremely dense energy near the ancient battlefield. Cultivating there will yield twice the results with half the effort. Recently, many cultivators have already taken the lead to head there. Even cultivating there is extremely good. When I said enter, I meant entering the fog. It is said that this fog will cause cultivators to lose their way, so the soldiers sent by Western Han City did not return. Di Beichen and Li Jinhuang also understood. It seemed that this fog was very strange. This time Jun Lingshuan and Xiao Shou will also be going. They have improved quite a bit recently, and the two families have spent a lot of resources to nurture them. Their strength cannot be underestimated. You have to be careful. Diyu Jue's expression sank slightly, and his brows were tightly knitted together. After experiencing the previous incident, it could be said that they were enemies and their eyes burned with hatred when they met. He did not know what methods Shuyu would teach the two of them, so he could not help but be worried. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were clearly not that worried. If Xiao Shou and Li Jinhuang were cultivating with Shuyu, then they were cultivating with Senior Yu, who was not inferior at all. Although they've improved, we've also improved a lot. Di Beichen looked relaxed. Father, don't worry. They were defeated by us in the past, and they will still be defeated by us in the future. It's good that you're confident, but don't underestimate the enemy, Diyu Jue warned. We understand. Since you've already exited your closed-door cultivation, then don't delay and head to Western Desert City as soon as possible. Diyu Jue said, your mother has already prepared the things you need to bring this time. She's just waiting for you to come out of seclusion. Let's pack up and set off immediately. By the way, other than the cultivators from the various major factions, the Mercenary Union will also send people in. After all, the Mercenary Union was the one who discovered the ancient battlefield. The top experts of the major forces won't enter, But the mercenary union is a place where all kinds of people will be present. There are many unknown factors in this trip, but your life is the most important. Before leaving, Diujue couldn't help but remind him again. This was the concern from a father. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen smiled and nodded. We'll definitely return safely. After leaving the room, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sigh. I didn't expect that we would have to set off so soon after returning. Chapter 5709. Beichen, go and inform everyone to get ready. I will concoct some more of this medicine. Leave some at home and take some with you. Bailey Hongzhuang said. When she came back, she had already looked through the formula of this medicine. It was not difficult to concoct it. However, it was limited in the amount of herbs. If it was only the few of them, the amount would be enough. However, there were more people in the clan, so it was not enough. Di Beichen naturally understood Bailey Hongzhuang's plan. He immediately nodded and said, "Okay, then you go first." The two immediately divided the work. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly returned to her residence. Xiao He and Xiao Bai also followed closely by Bailey Hongzhuang's side. They had experience in this area. Even if they worked together now, their speed was extremely fast. Di Beichen first informed Xiren and the others that he was leaving this time. Then he went to see Lin Yunqing. When everything was settled, Bailey Hongzhuang also came out of the house. "Wife, is everything ready?" Di Beichen asked with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. The concoction of the medicine is relatively simple. It is also very fast. As an excellent alchemist, concocting medicine was a piece of cake for her. Lin Yunqing, Di Yujue, Xiao Wanrong and Di Lin Xian all came. After hearing the conversation between the two, Lin Yunqing could not help but ask, "Beichen, you just said that Hongzhuang is preparing a gift. What is it that is so mysterious?" Hearing this, Di Beichen gave Bailey Hongzhuang a look. Hongzhuang then handed the storage bag to Lin Yunqing. "Mother, this is the medicine I concocted. It will help the cultivator expel the impurities in the body and increase the speed of cultivation." When she said this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but feel a little guilty. This was completely Granny Hua's potion formula. However, because she could not reveal the existence of Granny Hua, she could only do it herself. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was stunned. Di Lin Xian's eyes were filled with surprise. What kind of medicine is this? It can actually expel the impurities in the body? Not only Di Lin Xian but Di Yujue and the others also had the same expression. There were very few pills that had this kind of effect, let alone a medicine. After undergoing marrow cleansing, it was extremely difficult to achieve such a feat. No one would have thought that such a medicine would exist. However, Hongzhuang had suddenly taken it out. Everyone was pleasantly surprised. "I found it by chance. I haven't had the time to name it yet." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled helplessly. In short, the effect of this medicine is very good. It's best to cultivate until you're exhausted before taking the medicinal bath. The improvement effect will be even more obvious. Hongzhuang is really amazing. She always surprises us. Lin Yunqing smiled. Xiren and the others who were at the side also smiled. Hongzhuang had always wanted to get the formula of this medicine from Granny Hua. Now that she had gotten her wish, the first thing she did was to benefit her family. "Mother, are my father and the others still in closed-door cultivation?" "I've already sent someone to inform them. However, they've been in closed-door cultivation for a while. Although we don't know the exact situation, we can hear the sound of a breakthrough from time to time. It can be seen that the breakthrough speed is extremely fast. Then I'll go and say goodbye to them before leaving." When Bailey Hongzhuang was on her way to the cultivation room, she met Xiao Sou and the others who were rushing over. Chapter 5710. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. The news came so suddenly. "I'm afraid we'll have to spend a lot of time on this trip. This is a rare opportunity to gain experience. Who knows, we might be able to raise our cultivation by quite a bit. Let's go if we can." Di Yujue smiled. As a youngster, he naturally had to give it a try. Mu Lingbing was a bit worried. "I heard that this place is very dangerous. Many people don't come out after entering. You must be careful." "Don't worry. Beichen and Hongzhuang have also been to many places to gain experience. In my opinion, they have more experience than you." Situ Yan smiled at Mu Lingbing. Hearing Situ Yan's words, Mu Lingbing thought about it and agreed. Just take the upper realm for example. Hongzhuang and Beichen had fought their way up. "Beichen, you have to take good care of Hongzhuang," Mu Jins reminded. "Grandmother, don't worry. With me here, I definitely won't let anything happen to Hongzhuang." At the same time, when Jinghui was also instructing Xiren and Shangguan Yingying. To cultivators, gaining experience was a very normal thing. However, as an elder he couldn't help but worry. After all, there were unavoidable risks in the training grounds. Especially in the upper realm, there were many unknowns. Mother, we're about to set off. You should stay here for a while. This is a medicine I concocted. It's very helpful for cultivation. Soak in it every night. Bailey Hongzhuang handed the medicine to Mu Lingbing. Father, other than cultivating every day, there are many demon beasts in the back mountain. It's very suitable for training. Dibeichen explained the best way to use the medicine. He could feel that Lan Yunxiao and the rest cultivation had been rapidly increasing. However, just increasing their cultivation wasn't enough. Fighting was more important. Go in peace. Don't worry about us. We'll be here waiting for you to come back. Lan Yunxiao's face was full of smiles. His handsome face was full of concern, but his eyes, which others couldn't see, were filled with worry. After everything was prepared, everyone set off. Other than them, Bailey Yunyan and many other cultivators from the D family were also traveling with them. In a situation like this where there were forces from all sides, the number of people could still give them an advantage. The one leading the team was still the Great Elder. After the first experience, everyone was already familiar with the route. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others sat on Di Beichen's flying car and followed the first elder's flying car to the northwest. It's said that the mercenary guild will also send people over. I wonder if Huang Futing and the others will be there as well? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. They hadn't seen Huang Futing since he said he was going to train. Because they were in a hurry, they didn't have time to go to Emperor Cloud City to ask. Based on my judgment of Huang Futing, this opportunity, he shouldn't miss it. Di Beichen pondered and said, and this matter has been spreading like wildfire. I think they must also know that we will be there. Maybe they are already waiting for us. If that's really the case, then that's not bad. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. This is a very good opportunity to train. If we can get some good fortune, that would be even better. Chapter 57:11. Yunju, you've been in the mercenary union all this time, so you should have some understanding of it. Why don't you tell us about the situation? Di Beichen turned to look at Di Yujua. So far, he had not been to the mercenary union, so he did not know much about the situation there. The mercenary union in the upper realm is not much different from the lower realm, but the strength of the mercenaries here is stronger. Many idle cultivators gather here and form mercenary teams. I heard that many people from different forces also come here to train, and I met them when I was training. Moreover, the upper realm is vast, and there are many special places, so the missions are divided into different categories. Then did you encounter any trouble when you went there? When Xiren asked, usually a Xiaobai face like yours should be easily disliked by those burly men, right? Mo Yunjue turned to look at Xiren. Do I look like a Xiaobai face? His cold gaze was as sharp as a knife, and with just a look, the air seemed to be frozen. When Xiren spread out his hands and said resentfully, okay, you're not. You brat, just Yunju's gaze is enough to shut those burly men up. Shangguan Yingying chuckled. However, I can be sure that Yunju's mission in the mercenary union will be very smooth. Why? Think about it, Yunju is so handsome, the girls in the mercenary union will probably stare at him. Isn't it easy to complete the mission? Shangguan Yingying said matter-of-factly. As soon as she said that, everyone turned to look at Mo Yunjue, but the latter did not say anything. Bailey Hongzhuang gave Shangguan Yingying a look of admiration. She saw through it at a glance. Huang Futing has his own team. I noticed that someone wanted to join his team, but he rejected them. At that time, I thought it was a little strange because that person was not weak, and they just happened to be going on a difficult mission, so they should not have rejected. Later, I found out that they were dark cultivators and everything became clear. I see. Di Beichen understood. It's inevitable that someone would see through it. Previously, he had been worried about this problem. Once he was targeted, it would be troublesome. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Not everyone has such good eyesight as Yunjua. There are still very few people who find it. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest arrived at Western Desert City, they discovered that the entire city was bustling with noise and excitement. The huge city was already filled with people, and this scene was comparable to the grand occasion in Piercing Wind City. These people want to enter the ancient battlefield? Xiren was surprised. He didn't know how big the ancient battlefield was. Would these people fill up the entire ancient battlefield? This time, the sudden appearance of the ancient battlefield made it impossible to prevent the news from spreading. Moreover, the number of people in the mercenary association was already very large, so it was impossible to control. Although the various major forces have already limited the range of cultivator strength, you still have to be careful. No one can guarantee that there won't be people who will fish in troubled waters, the Great Elder warned. Everyone nodded. The current situation was far beyond their control. Chapter 57:12. The ancient battlefield appeared in the desert outside Shihan City. The people gathered in the city are mainly new cultivators. Of course, there are also many merchants. With so many people here, the business opportunities are naturally limitless. The Great Elder smiled faintly as he led everyone forward. The information we have is from the past. Different things happen here every day, so before we go, I have to understand the latest situation. If there are no problems, I will bring you all along. Hearing this, everyone nodded. Because D. Bachin and the others were in seclusion and had been on the road for a while, the news the D family received was from half a month ago. No one knew if anything else had happened in this half a month. Bachin, your family is really big. No matter which city you go to, you have your own people. Xiren looked at the old man who was happily chatting with the Great Elder and couldn't help but sigh. Our family has stood tall for so many years, so we have some relationship with most cities. It's not just us, the other families are the same. Di Xiaofeng smiled. Even if they didn't have any relationship before, they will definitely send people to investigate after this incident. So as long as we come, we will definitely get the latest news. I see. Xiren understood. Although the Cloud Sword sect's influence in the lower realm wasn't small, it was undeniable that they couldn't do this. While the Great Elder was understanding the situation, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were sizing up the situation in the city. All kinds of cultivators were gathered here. There were cultivators entering the city at every moment, and these cultivators often formed teams one after another. The entire city was bustling with noise and excitement. Pill shops, weapon shops, and other cultivation-related shops were all bustling with business. One could even vaguely hear that they were sold out. This is probably the most lively Shihan City has been in these years. Di Xiaofeng smiled and shook his head. In the past, although Shihan City wasn't small because of its remote location, it wasn't very lively. Every time this small world appears, it can always bring about a city. Bailey Yunyan smiled faintly. They had obviously heard of this situation many times. Look, that person looks familiar. Is he from the Shao clan? Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze locked onto a man in front of her. She remembered seeing him in the Piercing Wind City before. Everyone followed Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze. The man was also sizing up Bailey Hongzhuang. Only when he felt everyone's gaze did he turn his head and stop watching. That's right. This person is from the Shao clan, Di Beichin affirmed. We came late this time. I believe that the Jun family and the Shao family have already arrived. Di Xiaofeng spread out his hands, but his expression was very calm. Soon you will see most of the people you met in the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm. Murong Jing, Qin Feng, and Jiang Wenyan should have arrived as well, right? A faint smile appeared on his chiseled face. It was like the sun in March, warm and bright. Di Xiaofeng nodded. They won't miss such an opportunity. Chapter 57:13. Look, isn't that the Saint of Light? Among the crowd, a cultivator's gaze locked onto Bailey Hongzhuang. After taking a closer look, he could not help but cry out in surprise. As soon as he said that, he immediately attracted the attention of many cultivators. Everyone turned their heads, and a look of pleasant surprise appeared on their faces. That's the D family's team. That's right, that's the Saint of Light. If it weren't for the incident in Western Desert City, I'm afraid I wouldn't have had the chance to see the real Saint of Light. Many curious and pleasantly surprised gazes landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. The incident of the Sacred Assembly of Light had already spread throughout the entire upper realm several months ago. As for the portrait of the Saint of Light, it had also spread to every branch of the Sacred Assembly of Light. Everyone had long heard that the Saint of Light was as beautiful as a fairy. When they saw the portrait, they already had such a feeling. It was only when they saw her in person that they were shocked. In a short time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were surrounded by many cultivators. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not expect such a situation to occur. They were all stunned and could not help but smile. My wife, your reputation is now much greater than mine. Your husband will have to rely on you in the future. Di Beichin chuckled. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Di Beichin. I'll think about it. The Di family came a little late this time. The Shao family and the Jun family came a while ago. It looks like there's going to be a good show to watch. Isn't that so? I think that with the appearance of the ancient battlefield this time, the relationship between the three great forces might change again. The complicated relationship between the three great families had long been known to everyone. Especially after Bailey Hongzhuang took away the position of the Saint of Light, this conflict could be said to have risen to the peak. There had been no news for several months, and it was likely that something was going to happen again. The Great Elder was originally chatting with his family in Western Desert City when he suddenly realized that his team was almost surrounded by a group of cultivators. He immediately walked over. After discovering that everyone was interested in Bailey Hongzhuang's situation, he felt relieved and began to update everyone on the recent situation. There should still be some time before the ancient battlefield's restriction dissipates completely. Recently, the essence force that is spreading out is getting denser and denser. The surrounding cultivators have all come here because of its reputation. This is an excellent opportunity to raise their cultivation level. Almost all the cultivators from the major forces have arrived. Let's set off now. Hearing this, everyone nodded and immediately followed behind the first elder as they walked quickly towards the desert. It is said that the yuan qi emitted from the ancient battlefield far exceeds the yuan qi that one normally cultivates. Not only is it denser, but it also contains a unique law of heaven and earth. In this short period of time, many cultivators have already made breakthroughs, so all of you must also grasp this opportunity and work hard to improve your own cultivation, the Great Elder advised. Everyone looked at each other and became even more interested in this. I wonder what kind of heaven and earth yuan qi it is to have such a good effect. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered and said, "It's rare to have such a good opportunity. Why didn't Father and the others come together?" This kind of environment was not only beneficial to them, but also to all the cultivators. Chapter 57:14. I don't think everyone will turn a blind eye to such a good opportunity. Mo Yunjue said slowly. The Great Elder smiled faintly and said nothing. Everyone walked in the desert. Not long after, everyone found that a large number of cultivators appeared in front of them. They were densely packed and looked particularly conspicuous in this endless desert. In addition, everyone found that the desert, which was originally very clear, was shrouded in a layer of white mist, making the situation in front hazy and unclear. Noticing this scene, everyone knew that this was the place where the ancient battlefield appeared. With the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang and her party, they immediately attracted a lot of people's attention. The D family's people are finally here. Their speed is really slow this time. It's most likely that D Beichen or D Xiaofeng are in close cultivation, so they are late. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and her party. Even if they didn't know the specific situation, they could guess it. Bailey Hongzhuang and others just casually glanced around and found many familiar forces. There were many tents. As far as the eye could see, the endless tents were lined up in a straight line. There was a flag hanging on these tents with the names of the major forces written on it. With a casual glance, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed the flags of the Xiao family and the Jun family, which were very close to the center. There is our family's flag there. Di Xiaofeng pointed to a flag not far from the Xiao family and said. Hearing this, everyone turned their eyes and found the D family's flag fluttering in the wind. Great Elder, we've only just arrived, but you've already prepared everything? Di Beichen was a little surprised. He was worried that he would not be able to find a good position if he came late. Now it seemed that he was worried for nothing. The family master has sent people to occupy the position as soon as he heard the news. The Great Elder smiled and said, Look, the Lin family's team has also arrived. As soon as the Great Elder's voice fell, Lin Yi's figure had already appeared in everyone's sight. Second cousin, you're so late. Lin Yi smiled mischievously and got close to Bailey Hongzhuang. Second cousin-in-law, did something happen that delayed you? Previously we were in seclusion and did not know about the ancient battlefield. Father was worried that it would affect our cultivation and did not disturb us. After we found out, we rushed over immediately. I see. Lin Yi understood. The vitality here is very rich. It's really suitable for cultivation. I broke through 2 days ago. You can't waste this good opportunity. With that said, Lin Yi held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and walked forward. Her pretty face was full of sunshine. Di Xiaofeng looked at the smiling Lin Yi and quietly breathed a sigh of relief. As sharp as he was, he could still feel the change in Lin Yi's expression. Di Beichen patted Di Xiaofeng's shoulder. Yi is much better now. Don't worry. He also paid attention to Lin Yi's expression. In fact, since Lin Yi appeared, her eyes did not stay on Di Xiaofeng for a moment. It seemed that she deliberately did not look at him. But in any case she was getting better. After so many years of love, it would not completely dissipate in a short time. What's more, there was still awkwardness now. This would take time to gradually dilute. Chapter 57:15. Lin Qianqian and Lin Taxing also smiled after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. We have been wondering why you haven't come yet. You have sharp eyes. Lin Qianqian smiled. Lin Yi raised her eyebrows. Of course, I saw my second cousin-in-law as soon as I turned my head. Bailey Hongzhuang had already felt the rich aura of heaven and earth as soon as she got close. In addition to being richer, this aura also had an unknown special aura. Perhaps this was the so-called rules of heaven and earth, which gave people an inexplicable feeling. Their thoughts seemed to be unprecedentedly clear. Even just being in this environment gave people a completely different feeling of comfort. Demon summoning scripture began to circulate unconsciously, absorbing the rich aura. All the cells in her body relaxed and greedily absorbed the aura. She could clearly feel that the aura in her body was constantly filling up. Cultivating in this environment was not only twice the result with half the effort, but the effect might be 3 times, 4 times, or even more. Not only Bailey Hongzhuang but Di Beichen and the others also felt the change immediately. Their faces were filled with amazement. Such pure and rich aura, we can't even touch it on normal days. Di Xiaofeng was surprised. This aura can be directly absorbed. It's a good opportunity to improve. Judging from this aura, the ancient battlefield is an amazing place. The mercenary union has found a good opportunity this time. Mo Yunjua's expression was still cold, and there was no change on his cold face. Lin Taxing nodded and motioned everyone to look not far away. Look, those are the people from the mercenary union. The number is the most amazing. Looking in the direction Lin Taxing pointed, everyone found that the mercenary union's flag was flying in the distance. Its range was almost equal to all the other forces. The number of people from the mercenary union is already amazing. Plus, they were the first to discover it this time, so they have the advantage. In my opinion, the cultivators from the mercenary union are only a part of them. There are more cultivators on the way. In this regard, everyone was not surprised at all. The mercenary union could be said to have the largest number of people among all the organizations. Their management was also very lax. Even the cultivators in the organization were mostly mercenaries. I'm afraid it will be very lively when we enter the ancient battlefield this time, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a faint smile. A heavy look flashed across Lin Taxing's eyes. Actually, I can feel that the ancient battlefield this time is very different. It's much more powerful than the secret realms we've encountered before. Just the Yuan Qi alone has already far exceeded the past. Furthermore, I heard from some elders that the scale of this ancient battlefield is far beyond our imagination. As for what the situation inside is like, no one can say for sure, but the risk is probably unprecedented. Looking at Lin Taxing's solemn expression, everyone's heart sank. The former must have heard a lot of news. No matter what, this is an abandoned ancient battlefield. With so many of us going in, there shouldn't be too much of a problem, Di Xiaofeng said slowly. The solemn expression on his face didn't disappear. Have you heard that Xiao Souwu and Jun Lingshuan have acknowledged Xu Yu as their master? Lin Qianqian suddenly asked. Chapter 57:16. I've already met Xiao Souwu and Jun Lingshuan previously. This Xu Yu is indeed not simple. It's just that I haven't seen them for a while, but their cultivation progress is astonishing. Lin Qianqian's face sank. According to my judgment, they should have reached Nebula Stage 9. With Senior Xu Yu as their master, the two of them are even more arrogant than before. Their arrogance is soaring as if nothing happened. Nebula Stage 9? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. They had been cultivating with all their might without slacking off. With Grandma Hua's medicinal bath, they had reached Nebula Stage 9. She didn't expect that Xiao Souwu and Jun Lingshuan's cultivation had also risen to such a level. It seemed like this Xu Yu was indeed quite capable. Lin Qianqian nodded. That's right. Although I don't know why Senior Xu Yu accepted them as disciples, after this incident, I no longer have the same respect for Senior Xu Yu as before. Now that we're outside, they might have some misgivings. However, once we enter the ancient battlefield, they will definitely think of ways to deal with you. You have to be on your guard. Feeling Lin Qianqian's concern, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze softened. She smiled faintly. Qianqian, thank you. We understand. Di Beichen, your speed this time is too slow. Speak of the devil. Just as everyone was talking about Jun Lingxuan, they discovered that Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Shou were following behind an old man. Before they even arrived, Jun Lingxuan's teasing voice could already be heard. Di Beichen turned his head. He didn't pay too much attention to Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Shou. Instead, his gaze locked onto the old man in front of them. Although it was his first time seeing him, he was certain that this person was the famous Shu Yu. A tyrannical aura was emitted from his body. It inexplicably gave people an indescribable sense of oppression. This kind of power simply didn't allow them to probe his cultivation. When their spiritual power got close, it would be suppressed. In other words, the other party's cultivation was much higher than theirs. As expected of a cultivator who has been to the crossing immortal domain. His cultivation is not to be underestimated, Bailey Hongzhuang said in a low voice. His cultivation should still be inferior to Senior Yu's. It's just that Senior Yu usually restrains his aura so we can't sense it. Di Beichen looked at Shu Yu who was slowly walking towards him. He was constantly making judgments in his heart. Didn't we come a little late to give you a chance? Di Beichen raised his face. His handsome face looked even more charming under the sunlight. A cold glint flashed across Jun Lingxuan's eyes. You're still as sharp-tongued as ever. You still like to be defeated, Di Beichen retorted indifferently. Xiao Shou's gaze was fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, whenever she saw Bailey Hongzhuang, she would feel uncomfortable. Only by making Bailey Hongzhuang disappear from this world would she be able to truly feel at ease. Bailey Hongzhuang, let's see who's stronger in this ancient battlefield, Xiao Shou said coldly. Recently, her cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. She believed that Bailey Hongzhuang was no match for her. I'll accompany you to the end. Shu Yu sized up Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen without saying a word. At the same time, the great elder quietly stood beside Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang with a look of fear. After looking at them for a while, Shu Yu said indifferently, two pretty good young people. Chapter 57:17. It wasn't until Shu Yu left that First Elder let out a sigh of relief, and his tense body also relaxed. First Elder, are you all right? Di Xiaofeng asked with concern. First Elder waved his hand. This Shu Yu is very strong. If he made a move, I wouldn't be able to resist. Fortunately, he didn't seem to have that intention. I really don't know what methods the Xiao and Jun family used to recruit him. This situation is really troublesome. Everyone looked at each other with complicated expressions. This Shu Yu's appearance was tantamount to giving the Di family a big problem. Master, why did you praise them just now? Xiao Shou couldn't help but ask after following Shu Yu back to the family's residence. She had always seen Bailey Hongzhuang as a thorn in her side. Hearing her master praise Bailey Hongzhuang in front of her, she was really unhappy to the extreme. Shu Yu glanced at Xiao Shou and said, these two juniors aren't simple. It's not strange that you lost to them. What? Jun Lingxuan was also a little confused, but he wasn't as dissatisfied as Xiao Shou. Ever since he acknowledged Shu Yu as his master, he understood how powerful his master was. He believed that his master must have his reasons for saying this. I've already heard about the experiences of Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. They didn't rely on the Di family to come to the upper realm, but rather fought their way up from the lower realm. You've never been to the lower realm, but you've always looked down on it. But have you ever thought about how difficult it was for these two youngsters to come to the upper realm with their own strength in that environment? Shu Yu took 2 steps forward, turned around and continued, I just looked at them. They have a kind of tenacity that doesn't fear danger and a kind of determination that doesn't give up until they reach their goal. For cultivators, these 2 characteristics are very important. However, the 2 of you obviously can't compare to them in this aspect. Hearing Shu Yu's words, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Shou both fell into silence. Although they were not convinced that they could not compare to others, they also understood that what Shu Yu said was reasonable. They had heard the same words from their father before, so they had to admit it. Shu Yu noticed their expressions and nodded. Not bad. You guys didn't rush to refute this time. Then master, are we no match for them? That's not it. Shu Yu shook her head. Know thyself and know thy enemy, and you will never be defeated. You must first know where you are inferior to others and then improve yourself. What I'm afraid of is your arrogance. As long as you listen to my words and work hard, defeating them won't be difficult. Only then did Jun Lingxuan let out a sigh of relief, revealing a joyful smile. Master, we will definitely work hard. Actually, the gap between you guys has already shrunk. You guys are Nebula Stage 9 and they are also Nebula Stage 9. The gap isn't that big. They actually broke through to Nebula Stage 9? Xiao Sou was stunned. During this period of time, they had trained so hard to break through to Nebula Stage 9. Originally, they thought that they would be able to crush the other party, but they didn't expect that the other party had also broken through to the same realm. This feeling made her very unhappy. Chapter 57:18. Hearing Xu Yu's words, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou fell silent. Actually, this was something that they were unwilling to think about. Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Yuer's improvement after coming to the upper realm was indeed astonishing. Back then, the difference in strength between them was not small. However, in just a few years, Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Yuer had not only caught up to them, they had even surpassed their cultivation. How could they, who had always been praised as geniuses, accept this? Most importantly, back in the Divine Cloud Secret Realm, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's taboo techniques were too shocking. Therefore, when they found out that they were both Nebula Rank 9 cultivators, their confidence in winning had already begun to waver. Under the same cultivation, they were very clear that they were no match for them. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's methods were enough to let them crush all cultivators of the same level. Although they did not think that they were weak, they still had some understanding in their hearts at this time. Xu Yu looked at Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Yu, who had fallen silent. She did not want to hurt her two disciples too much, so she immediately said, "As cultivators, most of us are extremely hard-working. Aren't you guys working hard too? Don't take what happened in the past to heart. The past is the past. Now that you are my disciples, I will definitely make you the most outstanding young people. Do you understand?" Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou's spirits were lifted. Then, a strong sense of confidence appeared on their faces. Yes, master. Previously they had indeed lost to Di Beichen and Xiao Yu. However, now that they had the #1 expert Xu Yu as their master, Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Yu obviously did not have such an opportunity. Therefore, this was their trump card to turn defeat into victory. Xu Yu nodded in satisfaction. Previously I said so much because I hope that you guys will not be arrogant and complacent. Of course, there is no need to belittle yourselves. Accurately recognizing your own strength is the most important thing. The vitality that overflows from this ancient battlefield is the vitality of heaven and earth. It is the source of cultivation energy. Cultivating here will help you greatly improve your cultivation. You must grasp this opportunity and cultivate well. Before you have enough confidence to defeat your opponent, don't cause any trouble for the time being. Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Yu cupped their hands, their expressions serious and strict. Master, thank you for your teachings. We will definitely remember it in our hearts and diligently cultivate. We will not cause any trouble. Go. Xu Yu's face, Xiao Yu and Xiao Yu and Xiao Yu, he was not very willing. After all, the conflict between these two little guys and Di Beichen could be said to be well known by everyone. Xu Yu and Xiao Shu. Now it seemed that this was indeed the case. As for Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang, they were indeed good seedlings. However, since they were opponents, they could only become stepping stones. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen did not immediately start cultivating like everyone else when they arrived at the ancient battlefield. Instead, they looked towards the Mercenary Association's encampment. After a round of investigation, they saw a familiar figure in the Mercenary Association's team. Chapter 57:19. When he heard that the Xiao family's team had arrived, he immediately rushed out to take a look. As expected, he saw Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Huang Futing is really here. Di Beichen's lips curled into a smile and his heart relaxed. At least now that he saw Huang Futing, it proved that they had been doing well in the mercenary guild and had not been discovered. I told you, with their abilities there won't be any problems. Bailey Hongzhuang looked relaxed. This is good too. After entering the ancient battlefield, we will have a helping hand that others don't know about. Huang Futing was originally thinking about whether to get close to Di Beichen, but he saw the latter give him a look. He immediately stopped and understood Di Beichen's meaning. Now that all the major forces were gathered here, it might be best to pretend that they didn't know each other. The cultivators standing beside Huang Futing were also happy when they saw Di Beichen, but they were stopped by Huang Futing. Let's not expose our identities. It won't be too late to meet the young master after entering the ancient battlefield. Hearing this, everyone's expression froze and they all understood. It's easy for us to be noticed in the mercenary guild. If everyone knows about our relationship with the young master, it will be troublesome if more things are involved. Brother Huangfu, thank goodness you stopped us. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They had indeed thought too simply. This is also the young master's intention. Huang Futing smiled faintly. Now is a once-in-a-lifetime cultivation opportunity. Normally, it would be difficult for us to obtain cultivation resources. Now that we have such an opportunity, everyone has to grasp it and strive to raise their cultivation as soon as possible. Only then can we carry out our grand plan earlier. As soon as these words came out, everyone's expression was refreshed. Thinking about the dark sacred assembly, everyone felt as if they had been injected with chicken blood and were full of energy. In the past, they had been aimless and could not see the future and hope. Now, a bright path had appeared in front of them. Although the surroundings were full of thorns and obstacles, they were full of confidence. At the very least, they now had a goal to strive for instead of living aimlessly like a walking corpse. I see a lot of familiar faces. It seems like they've all come here. Bailey Hongzhuang pretended to be indifferent as she quietly observed Huang Futing's surroundings. Many of the people she had seen in Emperor Cloud City appeared around Huang Futing. It's a rare opportunity. They won't miss it. Di Beichen smiled. Now we can rest assured. Let's go into the tent and cultivate. Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou had both broken through to Nebula Stage 9. It could be seen that Shu Yu indeed had some ability. They might be thinking about how to deal with us. We have to raise our cultivation as soon as possible and not give them any chance to take advantage of us. His deep and wise eyes were dignified. Although Di Beichen was very disdainful of Jun Lingxun, it was undeniable that this person was an outstanding existence among the younger generation. What's more, with Shu Yu's guidance, Jun Lingxuan's recent cultivation speed was extremely fast. He had never looked down on anyone. A scholar who had been away for 3 days should be looked at with new eyes. They hadn't seen each other for such a long time. Jun Lingxuan had suffered such a huge blow that he might have put away his previous arrogance. All of this was very likely. And he could not lose. Chapter 57:20. Shu Yu's appearance was no different from a huge mountain pressing down on everyone's hearts. Everyone was worried that this person's appearance would bring about changes. Not only Di Beichen, but also Di Yujue could feel Di Yujue's worry when he first talked to Di Yujue. Bailey Hongzhuang knew Di Beichen very well. Although he never revealed anything on the surface, it was obvious that he had remembered everything in his heart. To him, there was no doubt about the importance of his family. He did not want any changes that could threaten his family's safety, so he would definitely think of a way to solve all of this. However, Shu Yu's strength was just too strong. At least for now, they were no match for him at all. Regarding this, she felt very helpless. Even if they had thought of a way, at least for now, there was no effective way. When the two of them returned to the tent, when Xiren and the rest opened their eyes. Hongzhuang, the vitality here is the vitality of heaven and earth. It is the source of energy that cultivators need. It is purer and more condensed than the vitality that we normally absorb. We must grab this good opportunity to absorb more vitality to strengthen our cultivation. Linger's voice was filled with surprise. Vitality of heaven and earth? Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. It was her first time hearing this term. Linger nodded slightly. The vitality of heaven and earth is the purest form of vitality. It is very suitable for cultivators. The vitality that we normally absorb is derived from the vitality of heaven and earth. However, regardless of purity or concentration, it cannot be compared to the vitality of heaven and earth. The upper realm basically does not have the vitality of heaven and earth. This is a great supplement for cultivators. This also means that this ancient battlefield is probably a very strong existence. Hearing Linger's words, everyone had a higher opinion of this ancient battlefield. Then wouldn't this ancient battlefield be too strong? It's not a place that we can enter at all? Shengguan Yingying asked worriedly. Linger shook her head. This is an abandoned ancient battlefield. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be too much of a problem. However, we still have to be careful when we enter. Since this is a rare opportunity, let's not waste any more time and cultivate. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped the topic. No matter how dangerous the ancient battlefield was, since they were already here, they would not give up the opportunity to enter. Now that they were all Nebula Stage 9, they clearly remembered Granny Hua's warning. The most important thing now was to suppress his cultivation level. The more essence force he accumulated, the stronger his strength would become after breaking through. If it was any other day, this process would definitely be extremely long. But now, with the heaven and earth yuan qi, this process could be greatly shortened. It was truly a heaven-sent opportunity. As soon as Bailey Hongzhuang finished speaking, everyone stopped talking and went into closed-door cultivation. Not only the D family, but almost everyone who came was unwilling to give up such a good opportunity to cultivate. Every second wasted was a second wasted. Therefore, other than a few cultivators who had just arrived, everyone immediately went into closed-door cultivation after settling down. After the great elder settled everyone down, he did not give up on this great opportunity. His cultivation level had not increased for a long time. Perhaps he could take advantage of this opportunity to increase it. Chapter 57:21. This news caused the leaders of the various forces to become restless. Although their cultivation levels were high, it was also because of this that it was even more difficult for them to break through. Where else could they find such a good opportunity on a normal day? Instantly, many of the leaders of the forces disguised themselves and arrived near the ancient battlefield. After the first person appeared, many more people appeared one after another. Although they had disguised themselves, they were still recognized. However, no one exposed them. After all, everyone had a tacit understanding of their purpose of coming here. Bailey Hongzhuang concocted some medicine and everyone simply soaked in the medicinal bath to cultivate. On one side was the heaven and earth yuan qi, and on the other side was the pure medicinal power. Under the influence of these two factors, everyone improved tremendously every day. However, even if they felt the barrier to breaking through, no one tried to break through. Instead, they suppressed it. This was the time to accumulate. Only by accumulating more would one be able to reap greater rewards. Compared to the various forces, the number of breakthroughs in the mercenary guild's encampment was higher every day. Cultivators of various cultivation levels gathered in the mercenary guild. Some of them even broke through 3 levels in a short period of time. Such a harvest was truly a pleasant surprise. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were engrossed in their cultivation. During this process, they naturally noticed the movements of the other cultivators. However, among the cultivators they were familiar with, they had not heard of anyone breaking through to the Radiant Moon realm. I wonder if the other cultivators also know to suppress their breakthroughs? Bai Lianche was puzzled when he realized that no one had broken through to the Radiant Moon realm after such a long time. Perhaps. Mo Yunjue pondered. The Radiant Moon realm is more difficult to break through than the other realms. Others don't know, but I believe that Xiao Sou and Jun Lingshuan definitely know. Bailey Hongzhuang looked certain. Since Shu Yu went to the crossing immortal territory, the cultivators he met were naturally extremely powerful. I'm afraid he already knew about this. Di Beichen nodded slightly. He agreed with Bailey Hongzhuang's opinion. I asked my father before. Perhaps the immortal territory and the upper realm have not been in contact for a long time, so many people in the upper realm are not clear about this. My father doesn't know about this. He just broke through to the Radiant Moon realm as usual. Beichen, where is the immortal territory you're talking about? Di Xiaofeng looked at Beichen in confusion. Why did he feel that Beichen and the rest seemed to know many things he did not know? It's a higher existence. Di Beichen smiled faintly. However, we are not very clear about that place. We only know that Shu Yu has been to the crossing immortal domain, so she knows more about cultivation than us. Di Xiaofeng sighed. Originally, the Xiao family and the Jun family were no longer a threat to us, but since this person appeared, things have become a lot more troublesome. I wonder why Shu Yu would help them. However, no matter what, we cannot allow him to affect the Di clan. Di Beichen's Di Xiaofeng. He would not let go of anyone who affected his family. Even if the opponent was far more powerful than they imagined. Di Xiaofeng looked at Di Beichen quietly. Suddenly, his lips curled into a dazzling smile. Chapter 57:22. Hearing the word, immortal, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and laughed involuntarily. Shu Yu had only gone to the immortal domain and had yet to become a cultivator of the immortal domain. She was indeed not an immortal. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. In these 2 months, the number of cultivators that gathered in Western Desert City could be said to have increased. Previously, when Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived, the entrance of the ancient battlefield was already filled with cultivators. Now, the number of cultivators was constantly increasing. Even the edge of the desert was surrounded by cultivators. Although the further back one's position was, the weaker the concentration of origin qi would be, it was still better than the usual cultivation environment. Therefore, everyone still flocked to this place and enjoyed it. Master, I feel the opportunity to break through again. After Jun Lingshuan felt the barrier to breaking through to the Radiant Moon realm, he couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. Until now, he hadn't felt any other familiar peers breaking through to the Radiant Moon realm. If he could break through first, he would definitely be in the limelight. On this point, he could directly suppress Di Baichen and Di Xiaofeng. Shu Yu looked at Jun Lingshuan's happy appearance and shook her head. Don't be in a hurry to break through for now. Accumulate more. After breaking through, you'll be even stronger. Hearing this, Jun Lingshuan frowned. Master, I already felt the opportunity to break through a while ago. You told me to accumulate, so I've been accumulating. Now that I've felt it for the second time, can I break through? Ling Sun, don't be anxious about breaking through. Accumulating more is good for you. Master won't lie to you. Shu Yu's expression was indifferent, as if she didn't see Jun Lingshuan's anxiousness. Master, I heard that Nangong Yuqing is already at Nebula rank 9. If he breaks through to the Radiant Moon realm first, then Ling Sun's limelight will be stolen. What's more, Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation talent isn't weak. Who knows when they might break through first? Xiao Sou couldn't help but say. During this period of time, they had been suppressed by Di Baichen in every way, and all the limelight had been stolen by them. She only hoped to turn the tables around as soon as possible. If they break through, then let them break through. What's the problem? Shu Yu's expression was mild. Do you want temporary glory or long-term benefits? I've already told you before that you can't be too hasty in everything. The best outcome is when the conditions are right. In short, my opinion is not to break through but to accumulate more. If you don't listen, I won't stop you. Looking at Shu Yu's back, Xiao Sou and Jun Lingshuan looked at each other helplessly. I really don't understand. It's not easy to get this kind of opportunity. Why does Master always have such an attitude? Jun Lingshuan sighed. He used to be so glorious, but he had already fallen many times because of Di Baichen. This time he really wanted to turn the tables, but he couldn't defend his master. I see that Di Baichen and the others haven't broken through. Ling Sun, don't be too anxious. Xiao Sou comforted. Jun Lingshuan nodded slightly. We've already lost for so long. This time we can't lose again. We definitely won't lose. This is the second time you've sensed the opportunity to break through. Di Baichen and the others haven't broken through yet. It's clear that they can't compare to you. Chapter 57-23. When Bailey Hongzhuang sensed the opportunity to break through, she immediately stopped cultivating. If she continued, she wouldn't be able to control the energy in her body and break through the barrier. Noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's movements, Di Baichen chuckled. About to break through? Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I suddenly understand what Zhongli Mu said earlier. He broke through unknowingly while sleeping, so he really can't suppress it. Zhongli Mu had previously told everyone about his breakthrough. Because Zhongli Mu had asked him to suppress it, he had been suppressing it. However, as he accumulated more and more energy, the opportunity to break through kept appearing. Even the slightest bit of carelessness could lead to a breakthrough. Under such circumstances, he didn't even dare to sleep, afraid that he would break through. Until one day, because he hadn't slept for a long time, he was too sleepy and broke through after taking a nap. That's why Zhongli Mu's strength is so abnormal. Xiren shook his head. Their confidence was nothing in front of Zhongli Mu. Just as everyone was talking, the aura of a breakthrough suddenly came. Everyone walked out of their tents after sensing the aura. They could sense that it came from an aristocratic family's tent, but they didn't know which one it was. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked out of their tents, they saw the Great Elder standing outside and looking in the direction of the aura. Great Elder who broke through. This aura comes from the Nangong family. It should be Nangong Yuqing breaking through to the Radiant Moon realm. The Great Elder looked into the distance and sighed. So it's Nangong Yuqing. Di Baichen didn't find it strange. After all, Nangong Yuqing wasn't weak. Back then, when he pursued Xiao Sou, he had many conflicts with them. However, ever since he brought Nangong Xiaolong back, they hadn't heard any news about him. This guy actually broke through to the Radiant Moon realm. It seems that his progress isn't small. Mo Yunjue said indifferently. Just as they were talking, Jun Lingshuan and Xiao Sou came out of their tents. Nangong Yuqing really broke through. Jun Lingshuan sighed. In the end, he wasn't the first to break through. Xiao Sou comforted him. Lingshuan, it's good that we understand. I believe that Master has his reasons. I hope so. Jun Lingsun turned his head and found that Di Baichen and the others were looking at him. He immediately restrained the sadness on his face and restored his usual arrogance. Di Baichen, do you feel envious to see Nangong Yuqing have you broken through? Your cultivation's slow. I think you're the one who's be disappointed? Di Beichen smiled. In any case, my cultivation's already lagging behind, so it doesn't matter. Besides, strength and cultivation aren't completely proportional. Jun Lingshuan snorted, you're just talking big. We'll see who's the real deal when we enter the ancient battlefield. I hope you won't lose your life before you see us. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows and walked into the tent. The Nangong family's cultivators were undoubtedly full of glory. Their young master was the first to break through and stole the limelight from the other family's younger generation. Chapter 57-24. Father and the rest didn't come for such a good opportunity? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the great elder. It was a pity to miss such a good opportunity. Looking at the look of pity on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, the great elder smiled and said, actually, the master and the rest are already here. As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. Their eyes flashed with a strong sense of surprise. Is that true? Of course it's true. Then why didn't we see them? The great elder sighed. All the major forces have agreed that the younger generation will explore the ancient battlefield. It's naturally inappropriate for the elders to come here. However, many leaders of the forces have come, but they have disguised themselves and did not enter the base of their respective families. The current situation is considered to be unspoken. Hearing that, everyone finally understood. They had not expected the leaders of the forces to be so interesting. They had formed such an interesting unwritten rule in such a short period of time. Great Elder, it's a pity to miss such a good opportunity. Why didn't the master and the rest go in? When Xiren asked curiously. If the master had gone in, he would have reaped a greater harvest than them. Looking at the confused crowd, the great elder smiled and explained, if the master went in, he would have reaped a greater harvest, but the risk would be great as well. Moreover, the younger generation has to be given space to grow. Only with enough experience and opportunities can they become stronger. Actually, the master and the rest had gone through this in the past. I was too naive, Yi Zichen said. When Xiren was enlightened. He had only thought about the benefits and had not considered anything else. The younger generation was an extremely precious resource for the family. However, if anything happened to the master, it would be a huge blow to the family. Thinking about it, all the major forces had been doing this for the past few years. The restriction is much fainter than before. I believe it won't be long before it completely disappears. The great elder reminded everyone. Everyone, I estimate that it will take about 7 days. Continue to cultivate first. When it's about time, I'll inform you. Everyone nodded. Once they entered the ancient battlefield, it would be the time for the younger generation of the major forces to compete. Before entering, even if one's cultivation increased by a little, their chances of survival would increase by a little. With that, the first elder walked out of the tent with a helpless look on his face. Nangong Yuqing had already broken through to the Radiant Moon realm, but the young master and the great young master had not. If they entered the ancient battlefield, they would be at a disadvantage. The great young master and Nangong Yuqing had formed a grudge during the previous trip to the Immortal Cloud realm. If they met in the ancient battlefield, they would inevitably fight. He was very clear about the difference between the Nebula tier and the Radiant Moon tier. It might seem like it was only one level, but the difference between the two was far more than just one level. I hope he can make a breakthrough in 7 days. The great elder prayed. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't know what the great elder was thinking. Right now, no one was planning to break through. Their idea was to be like Zhongli Mu and break through naturally. It would be more beneficial for them in the future. Everyone could feel that the restriction was about to disappear. This kind of cultivation opportunity would most likely not appear again in the future. Therefore, in the remaining few days, everyone cultivated in silence for fear of delaying the advancement of their cultivation. Chapter 57-25. Not because of anything else, but because of the noisy discussion coming from outside. It seems that the seal is about to dissipate, Di Beichen said in a low voice. Everyone walked out of the tent and looked at the entrance. The fog was as hazy as before, blocking everyone's vision. They couldn't see the front with their naked eyes. They knew that the seal was about to dissipate because of their mental strength. The power that had been lingering at the entrance had weakened a lot and was faintly dissipating. When the great elder saw that everyone had come out, he said, "Young master, I'm afraid that the seal will dissipate in another 4 hours. You have to be prepared. We'll be going in soon." Di Beichen nodded slightly. His chiseled face was solemn and serious. Great Elder, don't worry. We're already prepared and can set off at any time. Perhaps it was because they were about to enter the ancient battlefield, many cultivators couldn't cultivate in peace. The surroundings became noisy and lively. Xiaofeng. Murong Jing's figure appeared in front of everyone. I knew that you were cultivating, so I didn't disturb you. We'll be entering the ancient battlefield soon and we'll have to fight side by side again. Seeing Murong Jing, Di Xiaofeng smiled heartily and warmly. You and I have fought side by side since we were young. We can't underestimate the ancient battlefield this time. Although the situation isn't clear, everyone is sure that the danger level inside is higher than what we've experienced before. So, we have to be careful when we enter. We're all people who cherish our lives. We don't know what's going to happen after we enter. It's safer for us to meet up as soon as possible. Di Xiaofeng nodded. There were so many rumors before they even entered. It was clear how dangerous it was. In his opinion, the treasure was secondary. Protecting his life was the most important. Murong Jing was relieved when he saw that Di Xiaofeng understood the situation. He didn't stay any longer. All the major forces had already kept their tents and were waiting to enter the ancient battlefield later. Young master, great master, the patriarch said that everything else isn't important as long as you return safely. Moreover, Xiao Sou and Jun Lingshuan probably learned some tricks from Shuyu. The patriarch said that you shouldn't underestimate the enemy. The great elder's expression was serious, but his eyes were filled with worry. Now that they were about to enter, and none of the young masters and the others had broken through to the Radiant Moon realm, he could not help but feel worried. We understand. Di Baichen nodded and turned his gaze slightly. However, he found that among the troops that were beginning to retreat behind him, a familiar gaze had fallen on him. It was a face she had never seen before, but the gaze was warm and familiar. The other party nodded at Di Baichen, and Di Baichen responded indifferently. He knew that it was Di Yujue in disguise. Before they left, his father was still worried about them. Bailey Hongzhuang followed Di Baichen's gaze and also noticed the figure. Whether it was her height or her appearance, she was completely different from her usual self, but she was still recognizable at first glance. Di Yujue's lips curled into a smile before he turned and left. Not only Di Yujue, but the leaders of the major forces also left quietly. If they didn't leave now, it would be awkward for them to stay here and look at each other when the juniors entered the ancient battlefield later. Chapter 57-26. Soon after, the restriction completely dissipated under everyone's waiting. Do you feel it? The prohibition has disappeared completely. We can go in now. After waiting for so long, it has finally disappeared. But who will go in first? Even though they had sensed the disappearance of the restriction, their hearts were still pounding. The ancient battlefield was simply too mysterious to them. When Di Baichen and the rest realized this, they were ready to go and slowly approached the entrance. Young master, we will wait for your return in the family, the great elder said sincerely as he glanced at the cultivators in the Di family. Di Baichen nodded. Don't worry, I will bring everyone back safely. Take care. Just as everyone was in a dilemma, someone had already entered the ancient battlefield. As the first person entered, the other cultivators rushed in without hesitation and threw the so-called risk to the back of their minds. Xiao Sou and Jun Lingshuan also prepared to leave at the first moment, and before leaving, Shuyu couldn't help but remind them. After entering the ancient battlefield, if you don't encounter any danger, there is no need to rush to break through. Suppressing your cultivation will be beneficial to you. However, if you encounter any danger, you can break through if you really can't. Yes, master. You must return safely. Shuyu nodded and waved for the two of them to leave. Jun Lingshuan did not delay and immediately led his own team into the ancient battlefield with Xiao Sou. When Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes, there was a foggy world in front of her. White fog filled her eyes and in an instant, it was as if there was only white left in the world. The air was filled with the smell of blood and Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but frown. The ancient battlefield should have appeared for a long time. Why is there still such a strong smell of blood? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. However, there was no response to her voice. Baichen. Are you not here? Baichen. After shouting a few times without receiving any response, Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. It seemed that they had been separated when they came in. Master, this place is so strange. There is only white fog as far as the eye can see. I can't see anything clearly at all. Xiaohei looked puzzled. They had been to such places before, but even though the visibility was low, they could still see clearly within a meter. Right now they couldn't see anything at all. If there was any danger, they wouldn't even be able to react in time. Bailey Hongzhuang's face darkened. The ancient battlefield is not like the immortal cloud mystic realm. Many people have already entered it. This is the first time it has appeared. No one knows what is going on inside. If it's a dangerous place, wouldn't it be possible for all of us to be wiped out? Xiao He no longer had the joking expression from before. Such a consequence was not something they could bear. First, we have to figure out where the smell of blood came from. Is it from before or now? Bailey Hongzhuang said in a deep voice. Even though the situation in front of her made her feel helpless, Bailey Hongzhuang forced herself to calm down. She had no other choice now. If she did not calm down, she might not even be able to keep her life. Closing her eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang tried to use her mental energy to sense everything around her. However, there was a mysterious power in the fog that prevented her mental energy from penetrating it. Chapter 57:27. Master, my mental strength is unable to leave my body and I can't sense the situation around me. There was a rare nervousness in the young voice. Xiao He, who was usually undisciplined, could also feel the pressure brought about by the unknown environment. The feeling of not being able to see anything and not being able to hear anything was too overwhelming. Me too. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. This situation was beyond their expectations. I wonder if the others are in the same situation as us. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered. If everyone was in the same situation, there wouldn't be any progress for the entire day. However, this wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that they didn't know if there were any other living creatures in the ancient battlefield. If they were to attack, it would be dangerous. The faint smell of blood lingered in their nostrils. This feeling made them feel extremely uncomfortable. Xiao He, can you sense any demonic beasts nearby? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Xiao He had always been very sensitive towards other demonic beasts. Not really. Xiao He replied, Master, I keep having the feeling that we're standing in the center of the battlefield and not the periphery. The ancient battlefield was so big that it was impossible for every place to be a battle zone. However, the smell of blood lingered around them and there weren't any screams. Obviously, this was the biggest possibility. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I have the same thoughts as you. Moreover, I can vaguely sense a strong aura around us. It's a pity that I can't see anything clearly. Master, since there's no other way, let's not be anxious. I believe that this fog will disperse eventually. Otherwise, won't we all be unable to walk out? Xiao He comforted Bailey Hongzhuang. The current situation made them feel helpless. However, they definitely couldn't let this helplessness grow. It would be very easy for them to collapse. Hearing Xiao He's comforting words, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and stroked its furry head. It's rare for you to comfort me. Of course. Xiao He changed its usual joking expression. It grew bigger and leaned against Bailey Hongzhuang. Master, don't be afraid. I'm here. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart seemed to soften in an instant when she felt the furry warmth beside her. Usually Xiao He was always making a fuss and was a clown. It was rare for her to be so heartwarming. However, she always knew how important she was to Xiao He. Don't be afraid, we will definitely be able to get out of here. Bailey Hongzhuang hugged Xiao He and said, the vital energy here is very dense, even denser than when we were in the outside world. If you don't know where to go, you might as well cultivate here first. However, it's filled with a murderous aura. I'll have to pay more attention to it when I cultivate. When Xiao He saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was so calm, she felt relieved. Alright, let's wait and see when this fog will disperse. After making their decision, the human and beast sat down on the spot and began to cultivate peacefully. At the same time, many cultivators who had entered the ancient battlefield were in a daze. This was especially so for those who had been separated from others by a mysterious force. They were left alone and could not see the situation clearly. Chapter 57:28. After Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao He calmed down and focused on their cultivation, the fear and worry in their hearts gradually dissipated. However, the smell of blood that constantly wafted into their nostrils reminded them that this place was filled with the strange language and was not safe. Night slowly fell and a thick darkness enveloped the entire world. Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes and saw an endless darkness. It was as if she had become blind and could not see anything. This fog is strange. It seems to have turned into a black fog at night. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. It seems that the two of us can only accept our fate. Master, it's fortunate that the two of us are still together. Think about those cultivators who appeared here alone. That's really terrible. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and could not help but ponder. I don't know if Ling Er and Yen Che can find us. However, I can't sense their auras nearby. I'm afraid that they are very far away. Shi Yen Che and Ling Er were telepathic. Generally speaking, as long as they were not too far away, they would be able to sense them. However, she could not sense them at all. The size of this ancient battlefield may be beyond our imagination. There's no sound at all nearby. Xiao He looked defeated. I've never seen such a unique place. I believe that there will be a way. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. The number of cultivators who had entered this time was unprecedented. Even so, there was not a single person in the surrounding area. If the cultivators from the mercenary guild had not entered and only the outstanding disciples from the various large organizations had entered, it would have been even more difficult to meet them here. Bailey Hongzhuang closed her eyes and continued to cultivate. However, she had just started cultivating when she felt a strange energy invading her body along with her elemental energy. This energy was contained within her elemental energy. If she was not sensitive enough, she would not be able to detect it immediately. Xiao He, stop cultivating for now. Master, what's wrong? Xiao He opened her eyes when she heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Her voice was filled with confusion. Don't you realize that the elemental energy we cultivate now is different from when we cultivate during the day? Now that you mention it, I do feel that something is wrong. However, I can't pinpoint exactly what is wrong. Xiao He scratched her head. After the sky turned dark, there seemed to be some changes. However, I can't sense anything different. There's a special energy that has combined with the elemental energy. Although I don't know what it is, I feel that cultivating like this is not beneficial to us. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were serious. If some strange power accidentally entered her body, it would be difficult to get it out. It's not in the day but at night. While thinking, the power of light in Bailey Hongzhuang's body suddenly spread out. The rich power of light was dazzling and bright, illuminating the black fog in front of her. With this, Bailey Hongzhuang found that the fog in front of her was indeed different. During the day, the fog was pure white. Now, although the fog was also white, it was mixed with a trace of black. It was obvious that this trace of black was not the power of darkness. Most importantly, she realized that the black in the surrounding fog was gradually dissipating after she used the power of light. Xiao He, see if cultivating now is the same as cultivating during the day? Chapter 57-29. Xiao He noticed the difference after this round of cultivation. Master, there's no difference between now and during the day. It's so strange. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. She understood after seeing the changes in the fog. If I'm not wrong, this black energy should be resentment or something like that. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment before saying, this is an ancient battlefield. Although you can't see it just from the smell of blood, you can guess that the number of cultivators who died here must be a lot. So many cultivators have perished here and such a thick murderous aura has gathered here. It's not strange for such a situation to occur. If one cultivator had perished, the resentment might not be that serious. However, when a large number of cultivators had perished, the power gathered together would be extremely huge. I see. No wonder there wasn't such a situation during the day. Master, your light energy can eliminate this. Then we can cultivate at night. That's right. The vital energy here is so dense. If most cultivators can't cultivate at night, then this is a good opportunity to improve their cultivation. Unknowingly, a month had passed. During this period of time, Bailey Hongzhuang gradually realized that the surrounding fog had become thinner. If this situation continues, we should be able to see the situation under our feet clearly in a few days' time. That's right, under their feet. Actually, they could not see anything at all. They could not even see the situation under their feet clearly. Xiao He nodded happily. As long as we can see a little more clearly, we can go and look for everyone. They had been staying here for a while and there was no sound around them. This made the lively Xiao He feel extremely uncomfortable. Hold on for a few more days and we can set off. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao He were conversing, a sudden breeze blew past. This was the first time Bailey Hongzhuang had felt wind since they had entered the ancient battlefield. Everything here seemed to be forbidden. Besides the difference between day and night, there was no movement at all. Even the wind had not appeared. As the wind blew past, the thick fog was blown away by the wind. With Bailey Hongzhuang as the witness, everything in front of her became clear. She could see the blue sky and white clouds. She was freed from her blind state. Master, we can see. Xiaohei was pleasantly surprised. This wind is so magical. It is indeed magical. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was a little stiff. The situation here, sensing that her master's voice was different from usual, Xiaohei asked suspiciously, "Master, what's wrong?" Ah. After asking this question, Xiaohei could see everything clearly. Corpses. Corpses were strewn all over the ground. These corpses were all wearing armor and holding weapons. It was just like a tragic scene after a battle. It was shocking. Even though they had expected such a tragic scene to occur in the ancient battlefield, they had never expected that they would stay in the middle of the battlefield for such a long time. It was no wonder the smell of the blood. It was no wonder that they could feel the attack of an endless amount of resentment when they were cultivating. It was no wonder that they could feel a strong pressure around them. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang understood everything. Chapter 57:30. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the blood-stained ground. Even though these people were dead, they still exuded an extremely powerful aura. She was certain that this battle had taken place a long time ago, but these people's corpses had not decayed. They still looked the same as before, as if something had just happened. She had once heard Granny Hua say that when a cultivator's strength reached a certain level, they would be able to preserve their physical body from decaying. Obviously, these people had already cultivated to this level. If I'm not wrong, these people should be from the immortal domain, right? Bailey Hongzhuang's face showed a thoughtful expression. The cultivators from the upper realm can't reach this level of cultivation. Xiaohei was shocked. Doesn't that mean that everyone here can do whatever they want in the upper realm? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's right. These people are very strong. However, everyone in the immortal region has this level of cultivation, so they can't be considered much. I suddenly understand why this world is divided into so many planes. If they were merged together, the people at the bottom would not even be able to control their own lives. If the people from the immortal region came here, then the entire upper realm would be suppressed. Even the great aristocratic families would not be able to live as leisurely as they were now. Master, don't think so much. This place looks very strange. Let's go first. Xiaohei looked around. As a demonic beast, she had seen many battles. Even so, she could not help but feel apprehensive when she looked at the scene before her. What if someone was still alive here? Wouldn't they be done for? All right. Bailey Hongzhuang replied. She stood there without fear, only respect in her heart. After all, these were all powerful seniors. After seeing this scene, she understood more and more that the immortal region was far more powerful than they had imagined. Just as the two of them were walking forward, Xiaohei suddenly noticed a storage ring in front of her. Master, there's a storage ring there. I'm sure the cultivators from the immortal region must have many treasures on them. Xiaohei's eyes lit up and she reached out to grab the ring. Be careful. Before Bailey Hongzhuang could remind her, Xiaohei had already retracted her hand at lightning speed. She looked at the storage ring on the ground with lingering fear and said in shock, "It's too scary. The cultivation of the experts of the immortal domain is much higher than ours. Although they are already dead, the restriction on this storage ring has not dissipated. With our cultivation, we won't be able to open this barrier at all. Most importantly, it's very likely that we'll be heavily injured by the remnant consciousness it emits." Xiaohei nodded. Before I could even touch the ring, a powerful force had already attacked me. It's really terrifying. Everything here isn't something we can touch. It's better for us to leave obediently. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. How could she not be tempted? Not only were the storage rings scattered on the ground, but even the weapons were top-notch divine weapons. If he could bring them back, the strength of the clan would definitely increase by quite a bit. Unfortunately, when she had sensed the difference in power between them, she knew that she would not be able to bring them back. Xiaohei turned to look at her surroundings. She had been so shocked that she had not paid much attention to her surroundings. Now that she had taken a closer look, she realized that there were so many treasures scattered on the ground. Chapter 57:31. Don't think about it, these are not things that we can touch. Let's hurry up and leave. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm. She knew very well that she should not think too much about things that did not belong to her. Her little life was the most important thing. Forget about them, even the master would not be able to take away the things here. Furthermore, these things had been affected by resentment and blood over the years and were no longer as pure as before. If they were to lose their little lives because of this, it would not be worth it at all. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiaohei nodded helplessly. It had always been a money grubber. Seeing that it had missed out on so many treasures, it was heartbroken. Noticing Xiaohei's heartbroken look, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but chuckle. This fellow had been a money grubber ever since she had first met it. It had not changed at all even after such a long time. The woman and the beast walked forward. This battlefield was huge and the number of cultivators who had died here was even more shocking. As they walked, they tried their best to avoid it. After leaving the battlefield, Bailey Hongzhuang stopped. She respectfully bowed to the front. "Seniors, I have offended you before. I hope that the seniors will forgive me." They had stayed here for an entire month. Now that they thought about it, their hearts were filled with lingering fear. Just thinking about it was enough to make them shiver. If they were timid, they would have vomited on the spot. "Master, where should we go now?" Xiaohei looked around and saw a vast and boundless grassland. The battlefield was extremely spacious and their field of vision was extremely wide as well. It was obvious that there were no other cultivators near them. Bailey Hongzhuang paused and her bright pitch-black eyes flickered with a light of deep thought. "Let's walk in this direction first. When we meet other cultivators, we'll be able to understand the situation here better." At this moment she did not have any understanding of the ancient battlefield. Even though she had been here for a month, it was as if she had just arrived today. In the past, when she was in the Immortal Cloud secret realm, she was always worried that she would encounter other cultivators and cause conflicts. However, now that she was here, she really hoped that she would be able to meet other cultivators as soon as possible. There were no living creatures in the surroundings, and there was an indescribable feeling everywhere. It was really unsettling. Xiaohei did not have any objections to this. In its opinion, it was the same no matter which direction they went. As long as he could reunite with everyone as soon as possible, that would be the best. A man and a beast walked on the grass. The sun shone on their bodies, casting long shadows on their backs. At the same time, the situation of the other cultivators who had entered the ancient battlefield was similar. Di Baichen and Xiaobai walked forward. There was nothing but grass in sight. "This place is really strange. The fog didn't disperse earlier, but now it's gone." Xiaobai sighed. Di Baichen nodded. "I also feel that this place is different from the secret realms that we've been to before. It's a little bit creepier. Let's not talk about anything else. The most important thing now is to find Hongzhuang. I really don't understand why these places always move in and scatter everyone." Little White sighed. This kind of situation really made people feel helpless. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.